Hello everybody. So this is what an exam season winter morning looks like to me, especially on Fridays after having multiple early morning study sessions. I think Fridays are my slower mornings, just so I still feel like myself during the exam season and rest my mind as well before continuing to study again. Really start off with journaling and do some skincare afterwards. And I must say, I've really been enjoying doing my skincare lately because I'm kind of seeing the result. Like, my skin has been improving slowly but surely. Anyway, what would a winter morning be without a cup of tea? So usually in the mornings I prefer having peppermint tea and adding some lemons because I am sick at the time of filming this. Morning lovelies. I hope everyone is well and everyone is well rested. I have been receiving a handful of questions and it's also the perfect time because it is exam season, so I did jot down a few pointers in my charter and how to have or build a good relationship with your studies, how to build a consistent routine and actually stick by it. I felt like I didn't want to do a video on this simply because if I don't do well and I made such a video, then what does it say about me, And then I was like, let me just make the video. That way it'll serve as a motivation to keep doing well. So every time when I journal, I listen to The Psychology of Your 20s, which is a podcast that I highly recommend. I would honestly recommend it to anyone because I do know that my demographics when it comes to this YouTube channel are very broad and there is a huge spectrum of different types of people who view. So it is honestly open to anyone. You don't have to be a student or in your 20s, in my opinion. I'm mentioning this podcast because I take a lot from it. One, as a psychology student, because I feel like they repeat a lot of the things that we study in theory. I just find that super interesting, listening to an episode and being able to apply whatever I studied to real life situations or scenarios. First and foremost, I always have a routine. I would normally draft up my study routine the last day of the previous month, which was the 31st of May. I had planned to study on the 1st of June. And that is because I have been having so many continuous assessments and tests that I wanted to have a week where I completely rest before starting to actively studying again for the exams. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but there's my calendar and it has my study timetable all planned out and drafted. You can draft a study routine, but I feel like the most important thing, first and foremost, is motivation. You need to have a sense of motivation, otherwise you won't be able to stick to your routine, you won't be able to stick to your schedule or your timetable. And motivation comes in different forms for all of us. For me personally, I feel like it is listening to a podcast every day and also being around people who are productive. I don't remember where I learned this, but then I know in psychology it says that human beings are naturally competitive. It is always better to work in groups, or rather be surrounded by people who are working. That way you are motivated to always do your best and put your best foot forward because you always want to be on top. You can also trick your mind into thinking that you're around people so that you maximize your productivity. Like for instance, you can study with a mirror in front of you and that will kind of trick your mind into believing that you are actually surrounded by people. That way you will increase your productivity because you want to perform your level based. This is also why most of the time when you guys see me studying, I'm always at the library. Apart from the fact that my room is very cold, being in a productive work environment or study environment, it can be your room, whether you apply the mirror effect thing that I just mentioned, or going to the library where you're surrounded by people, or even working with friends, or even joining a study group. I always set goals just so I know what I'm working towards. So With regards to goal setting, it is also important to break down your goals into manageable tasks. For instance, Babiki wakes up at 5 a.m. and she studies, and then you see that the next day you want to wake up at 5 a.m. and study, and you might not be able to be productive, or you might stop and be inconsistent because you started off with a big goal instead of breaking it into more manageable tasks. I don't know if you guys remember, but then my first morning routine, I woke up at 7 because I had come back from waking up at 11 and just resting for the summer holidays. And then when I came back to school, instead of starting to wake up early at 5 a.m., I started off at 7. The next week, I started off waking up at 6. The other week, I started waking up at 5. Your goal should increment bi-weekly in order for you to reach your long-term goal, which is waking up at 5 a.m. As long as you just do it incrementally instead of jumping right into it, because it might be hard to maintain it that way. And another key thing is to practice delayed gratification. You have to delay your immediate impulses in order to receive a greater reward at the end. Oh my gosh, this actually links with personality, the id, the ego, and the superego. You know how the id is like instant gratification, and okay, never mind. I'm geeking. This is basically something like not being on your phone. I also used to be that person. Like I would hop on my phone and just scroll through Pinterest instead of actually studying, because what that means that is you will study longer than you have to because you're not sticking to your schedule and you're easily distracted. I would rather delay that urge and that impulse to be on my phone and then reward myself at the end by finishing off a chapter and celebrating that. You're like, oh my gosh, I just finished a chapter. I look forward to the bigger reward, which is finishing a chapter, rather than going through a page and then going to my phone, which is to me a smaller reward, you know? And then the last one, which for me is quite an important one. I am a very positive person in general, but then when it comes to my goals, I tend to be very pessimistic and abstain from optimism. With the last one is having a pro-failure mindset. Approach your failures in a more positive way instead of being negative and sulking about them. I used to be that person. Like when I get 72% or a 75%, I would always be so sad, because in university a distinction is 75%, and all my life I've been trained that a distinction is 80%. So it's kind of hard to unlearn that. I'd always be so sad. I'd be like, I didn't get a distinction, and people are like, oh, you did so well, and you kind of seem like you're not happy with your result, especially for people who maybe didn't do as well. But then it's not that I'm not happy, it's not that I'm downplaying it, it's just a matter of it's not what I wanted, you know. Then I would always just sulk and be so sad and be so mad at myself. I also learned that it's very important not just to celebrate like your big wins, but it's also very important to celebrate your small wins, you know. To having a more pro-failure mindset means that you can also celebrate your failures. If I got a 73, you know, be like, oh my gosh, I got a 73. Be happy about it, knowing that you're gonna do well in the next one. You know, it's like, okay, I got 73. This next test has nothing on me because I'm gonna get a 90. You know, I feel like that's the mindset you should have, because you waste so much time when you're just being sad. Like, I believe in grieving when it comes to results. If I do bad, I want to grieve for a good 10 minutes and cry, oh my god, you know. But don't give it so much control over you or over your day. Like, if you sulk the whole day, you wasted so many hours where you could have just been positive and build a more realistic routine into getting the marks that you actually want, or just looking forward to doing well. That is it from me. I really hope that some of this advice actually helped, because that is literally how I maintain a positive relationship with my academics and always try to do well. There is gonna come a time where I'm not studying, where I don't know if that's soon though, but yo guys, I'm a student, so please bear with me, please be patient with me. I'm studying most of the time because that is what I'm here to do. So yeah, anyway, let me get on with my morning. I need to make some breakfast. I really hope these tips did help, and all the best to everyone with the upcoming June exams. I was actually supposed to upload another video before this, but then I just thought this is the perfect time. Exams are starting, so you guys need to hear this now. Keep staying motivated. How cute are my pajamas? I don't know why, but I have this urge to look like an angel today. So I'm gonna wear white. Now that the outfit is out of the way, I love running myself a hot bath. Most of you will probably think my bubble bath is blue because I like blue, but it genuinely smells like the ocean. While I am filling my bathtub, I usually just have breakfast and revise through the previous day's work, just so I see if I still remember the main concepts and everything that I studied before moving on to the next chapter. I would usually alternate between having tea and a hug in a mug because it's so delicious. Like I mentioned, today I pretty much felt like wearing white, and that was the OOTD of the day. I started off by going to get a few groceries because I've just been craving a very hearty home-cooked meal. So that's what I'm gonna have for dinner tonight. And yeah, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!